Why you ask? Because I'm the moderator and I get to decide what we do. So, I'm the current chair, and you may not be the chair after today's presentation. But I want to thank you. I want to thank the members of the panel for being here today to provide us with an update on the happenings of the city and county. Before we get to the questions submitted by our members, we're going to do something a little different. As I said, you've been reading our weekly chamber emails, which I'm sure you all do. You've noticed we've added a local trivia section. So today we're going to mix in a few Jeopardy-style questions for our panelists, in addition to the questions from our members. Each question is worth 1 point. We're going to divide you into teams. The city versus the county.
David mentioned that there was going to be a fun portion of this. I don't know what to expect.
The winning team will be our Chamber Jeopardy champion. Like with the real Jeopardy, please make sure you answer the questions in the form of questions. We don't have a fancy Jeopardy board, the budget we're not allowed. So if you look under your chair, you'll see the categories that we will be asking today. The categories are...
Make it a true daily double.
Hold on just a minute. Category Greenwood area trivia, Greenwood history, Greenwood interesting facts, and Greenwood celebrities. Julie, ladies first, please select the first question.
Gary looked better than Jeffrey did. Well, let's go interesting facts.
Okay, well, good. That's good. Interesting facts.
Good answer.
This Cherokee village was once located 96 miles from the town of 96.
She's from 96.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Your team.
Yeah, say that.
Kiwi.
Correct.
What is Kiwi?
All right.
Go team.
Yes. Now we will move on to the real question. But stick around, we might have some others. First questions are related to the capital project sales tax. Beyond the existing Yes for Greenwood projects, how will the city and county address ongoing maintenance and repairs for other roads and bridges? What is the plan to address the current poor conditions of our streets throughout Greenwood County and address traffic flow issues, especially around new neighborhoods? You want to start off, Toby?
Okay. All right. In terms of roads, that's something the county council is actually addressing right now. It's something currently they're trying to wrestle with, particularly as it relates to subdivision roads and private roads. Something Tuesday night, actually, the council meeting, I expect a full and vocal debate about kind of where we go from here on particularly subdivision roads. But to give some kind of frame of reference, our public works director wants a 20-year repaving schedule. That's what he believes to be the standard that we should be using. He's willing to settle for 25 years. So at the current rate of funding, the past 4 years, we've gotten additional money from the state legislature. So with the regular funding plus the additional funding, we've gotten the cycle down to 35 years. So it's not where we want it, but still not bad. You take away that one-time money, and now that goes to 60 years cycle. So it's an issue that's going to have to get addressed. I think we're going to have some serious discussions about the $26 road fee and whether that's appropriate going forward.
Any other comments on that question?
The only thing that I would add to that is emphasis needs to be placed on the fact that right now we're at a 60-year cycle. That's not sustainable. That's not going to help us with the problems that we see here today. So, as Toby said, our council is working on this issue right now, and candidly, we're going to have to make some changes because our people deserve better.
Yeah, from a road standpoint, we certainly know that there's some roads that need attention. I certainly wouldn't characterize all the roads in the city of Greenwood as in poor condition, though. But it's easy to think of as a road in the city, it's city-maintained road, when in reality, there are actually a pretty small percentage of roads in the city that are actually city-maintained. So we do work with the DOT, and we're mindful of some of the issues with the roadway and some of the new neighborhoods. There will undoubtedly be some changes in traffic patterns with some of these new neighborhoods and traffic control devices with some of the development that we've got.
I know y'all don't want to hear from all four of us on all these questions, but I just want to let y'all know that DOT is getting ready to pave Edgefield Street. We get a lot of questions about that one. That's it. All the calls I get. All the calls we get about Edgefield Street. Round of applause for DOT. Thank you.
That's a big one. It's the gateway to the hospital in the Westside community, and so that's a big one. It's on the schedule for early 2026, I believe. Okay.
Any moment.
All right.
All right, thank you. Staying on the capital project sales tax, in 2024, the capital project sales tax passed by over 63%. And we're starting to see these new projects be set into motion. What is still left to complete from the 2016 capital project sales tax? What roadblocks, if any, have we had in getting any of those 27 projects to the finish line?
So all they just passed on that one. They all want to talk about roads, but no one will talk about that. No, I think that. So this year, there's 27 projects on the 2016 capital project sales tax. We got 3 more done this year, bringing us to a total of 12. Josh Skinner, who is our CPST coordinator, has assured me, we'll just leave it at that he will get another 3 done in the next 6 months and then 5 more done in the 6 months after that. So next year, sitting here, we should be at 20 to 27 done. So obviously leaving 7 left to go. I don't remember all 7 of them are, but I can tell you 4 of them, 2 are roads, which is 246 and Carolina Avenue, and 2 are water line issues, which is Harris Landon and Highway 25 South. So I'll speak to kind of 2 of the 4 in terms of what are the hurdles. For 246, it's just a multi-year project. We knew going in that this was going to take multiple years to get design, acquisition, and all the things you have to put in place to transform a highway. So we've known this was going to take a while. Obviously, funding is going to be an issue at some point soon. So Rob Rush and Rhett Templeton kind of on a parallel path of while we have Consort designing it, they're seeking additional funding. So that's kind of where that one's going to go. And the other one is, that I'll talk about, is Harris Landon. Harris Landon actually doesn't have a financial problem in terms of money. You know, between the CPST and the county, we put together money to do it. The problem we have, in all honesty, is the neighbors. You know, there's only 42 people have signed up to take the water from CPW. And CPW, you know, to their credit, is saying, we've got some concerns about this, you know, the economic viability of it. So, you know, it's kind of where it is. You know, you got people in the community, kind of like Julie was saying, with Edgefield, you know, there's 2 or 3, 5, 10 people that are banging the drum hard up at Harris Landon, but they aren't getting their neighbors to sign up to take the service. So we're kind of in a catch-22 of, we've got the money, we're ready to do the project, but we can't get enough people to sign up to make it viable. So that's a few of the ones.
With 246, for example, you mentioned additional funding or seeking. Are we talking about state and federal resources that we need to leverage?
Yeah, it's going to be federal. We've got round numbers. We've got $12 million from CPST, we got $38 million from the State Infrastructure Bank. Depending upon kind of how things go, because again, we're not done designing, so there's going to be a swag. We're going to need somewhere in the vicinity of probably $5 to $24 million to fully fund it. So we're going to have to go after some federal money, and we've already started. We started a few years ago going after it. So now that we're at 70% design, the cost-benefit analysis, the environmental, and all that stuff is now done. So I think it's going to be a much more attractive project at the federal level, and I hope the Congresswoman is still here to hear us say that.
Thank you.
While we're on that topic, David, I do want to add and give some recognition to, and I'm sure it's much the same with the city staff and to the county staff, in 2016, my recollection is for all the projects, we built in about a 5% inflationary factor on those projects, is close to that. And then this thing called COVID hit, and prices jumped exponentially, and so that 4 to 5% didn't nearly cover the inflation over the term of those 8 years. So the recognition needs to go to city and county staff for being able to save, to trim things, and to find ways to still complete those projects to a meaningful degree and get those things done, because that was certainly a tremendous challenge.
Yeah, there were some cost, a few cost overruns, which we've come up with creative ways to get these projects over the finish line. I think it's timely to discuss the Grace Street Park Phase 2 grand opening that we'll have next week, November 6th at 4. If you haven't been by there, I'm sure everybody in this room's driven by there. Hope you've seen the progress. We really want to connect Phase 2 to the existing dog park in Phase 1 of the project. And so we're really excited about the pump track, the skate park element, the volleyball court, the walking trail, and the pickleball courts, which we kicked off Sunday night before it got cold and rainy. So.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on, one of the projects that is still remaining from 2016 is the purchase of a fire truck. Well, to Theo's point, inflation killed us on fire trucks, right? So we had $1.4 million to purchase that truck, which ended up costing $2 million. So City Council has to, shoulder the rest of that $500,000. But you have to order fire trucks right now 36 months in advance. So that truck's been ordered for a long time, it just hasn't been delivered yet. So that project will be able to be checked off hopefully around the beginning of next year. And then Carolina Avenue, similar to the 246 situation, has come down to acquisition. But we're working with Davis and Floyd to hopefully move that project along in conjunction with the new Railroad Historical Center Depot. So it might seem like they're creeping, but those types of projects take a long time.
If you want to learn more about Grace Street Park, watch Robbie Templeton's video tomorrow. He does a good job keeping us updated. Friday, okay. Sorry, it's being recorded tomorrow. Sorry.
Well, speaking of parks, how would you rate the current maintenance / upkeep of public parks and open spaces? What plans are in place to make sure all new amenities are taken care of properly and on a regular basis moving forward?
Y'all see how he passed that right over here to me?
Yeah.
Y'all saw that? So how would I rate the current maintenance of parks? That's a tough question to answer, because as soon as we maintain it, someone comes right behind us and tears it up. And parks are a necessity for a community, but it's incumbent upon a community to take care of the parks too. We have so much vandalism in parks, you wouldn't believe it. And so it's a hard thing to keep up with. We have people ripping sinks off the walls and spray painting horrible things. To the point where if we didn't have to, I wouldn't even put bathrooms at parks. So I would rate our attempt at maintenance at probably a 9, and are actually keeping up with maintenance at maybe a 4 or 5, just because it's a challenge for sure. We've also been a little bit challenged with finding staff to be dedicated to park maintenance. We're getting a lot closer with coming up with a better plan to use people we have, and then also to hire some new people. So if you know anybody's looking for a job, let us know. But we've also sent several of our employees to become certified in park maintenance. So we're definitely getting to that point. We have a good plan for maintenance of the pump track and the skate park, because obviously those are new features that we don't have in the city right now. So I feel confident administratively in our plan to try and maintain parks to the best of our ability. But tell your friends, don't tear up the parks.
Yeah, we're grateful for the relationship with the county, whether it's a fire arrangement, the fire agreement, or parks agreement, which has allowed the city to maintain parks that are in the city. Because before there were some parks that were in the city maintained by the county, and so we're grateful for the relationship we have with the county and being able to delineate who is responsible for maintenance.
I think one of the most obvious parts that the county's been involved with lately is certainly the Greenwood Recreational Complex at Old Civic Center property, Mr. Templeton's rallying cry there. But a thing that always concerns me in regard to continuing maintenance of those, and County Manager and I have had a discussion of this lately, when we build these wonderful things, and especially if it came through the CPST, as many of them did, that doesn't take into consideration the need, as it exists, for additional personnel. And it also doesn't take into consideration just some of the ancillary things that you don't really always think about. You do think, oh, we built it, it's beautiful. So it's always, I think, a challenge for the government entities to figure out the ways to sustain those and keep those in the beautiful condition that they are today.
Yeah, and I'll be brief since, kind of into this. What I'd say is for us, we didn't build any new parks with the CPST. We just did very heavy duty renovations of them. So we should be able to maintain it with the staff as is. Operating is a different issue because we've seen phenomenal growth, particularly at the Greenwood County Recreational Complex and usage. So we're seeing more issues on the operational side, not the maintenance side. Brad Cuttle, who's the Parks and Rec director, has been pretty creative in some of his maintenance things. I think a couple of months ago, he came to County Council and got approved to buy 2 robotic mowers. So we're trying to do things smarter without having to hire bodies, because bodies are expensive. And using a programmable field sprayer to try to cut down on maintenance costs at an individual level. So trying to be smarter with our maintenance staff, because they're just expensive.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit here. Obviously, growth is something that we're seeing, and there's a lot of development going on in Greenwood County. How is the Lake Greenwood Master Plan ensuring new developments are protecting the lake water's quality, surrounding ecosystem, and not degrading the overall recreation/enjoyment of the lake?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the master plan can do any of those things, but the master plan is done. I'll say that. In all honesty, we probably haven't implemented it as aggressively as we should have, and that's just a time thing. Just to be honest, the Newberry administrator and the Lawrence administrator have both left, and those are key partners that we need. Most people don't realize that Greenwood County, while we own the lake, do not own the most shoreline. Lawrence County does. So the environmental things like you just mentioned, we dealt with most of them in the last one. We put in place some procedures to deal with septic tanks, to deal with land disturbance. We felt like we've covered a good part, not completely, but a good part of what we're doing on our side. We really need more help on the other side. And having those large leadership changes in those counties has honestly just pushed us back.
And I do think that the elements of the master plan, David, that we've been able to implement over the recent years have worked out as we wanted to. One of the things from an economic development standpoint we knew was that we didn't have enough access points on the lake. Well, we could address that. If any of you have driven over Cotham's Bridge almost any day, certainly during the fishing seasons, there are no parking spaces available. The boats and trailers are just filling it up. So that's a good thing, and that tells me that we were right in that assumption. So now, I think Kelly McWhorter would tell you that now we get some of those bass fishing tournaments and the like that we didn't get before. I remember our former chairman, Mr. Steve Brown, and I had many conversations when I first came on county council about our belief that Lake Greenwood was an economic development engine that we had just failed for a long time to turn on. So, and then you see some things done in regard to safety, the 911 signage now that we put on docks. So a lot of good things, I think, continue to go on with our beautiful lake. But as Toby said, we have some partners in the neighboring counties that have to join us in that. It's not that they're not willing to, it's just that they've been through some recent changes.
I can't add anything to the lake. Greenwood is not in the city. Enjoy the lake. But
Yeah. Well, then don't worry. We always have questions for you. So, What plans does the city have to implement the Westside Master Plan?
So for those that aren't familiar, the Westside Master Plan relates to the Westside community, which is just about 2 blocks off of Main Street, the west side of our community, running from Edgefield Street and behind there from the jail all the way to generally the hospital. There's a master plan, and from a city standpoint, we're grateful to have very community-minded partners like Greenwood Home Repair and Vision Greenwood, who's come up with the master plan itself. Now's the time to put some things into place. We talked about a few things here. Of course, we got some applause when we mentioned repaving Edgefield Street. The DOT was a big player in that. At Carolina Avenue, connecting in there will be a big project. That's just phase 1. Eventually, Carolina Avenue will connect all the way to the Genetics Center with additional phases. And really connect that artery, the Genetics Center, which is in our next era of Greenwood, is really going to continue to put Greenwood on the map, just a world-class Genetics Center. But as for the residents of the Westside community, there are certainly some public ways. There are ways to keep revenue from that tax base and any revenue generated in the West Side in that community. That's one big way to have some funding for that area. We're also looking at grants and some private investment in the area. We're looking at an early childhood center, and we're taking a lot of ideas. I'm not ashamed to say we're taking a lot of ideas from other communities that have done things well, specifically Spartanburg's North Side area, which has implemented a lot of what we're looking to do. So I'm excited about some low-hanging fruit that we can do over there. And I think I speak on behalf of council. We're excited. We want to finish that project and finish it right and get to the east side of Main Street as soon as we can also.
All right, before we move on to our next topic, it is time for another Jeopardy question. Theo, as a senior panelist, you have command of the board, so please select the category.
I'll say Greenwood celebrities.
Great topic. Okay. Greenwood celebrities.
I think Julie's one of
Yeah. In 1975, Bruce Springsteen released his album Born to Run. 4 years before that, Dr. Benjamin Mays has released his autobiography, Born to What?
I don't know, but the manager said, but the manager just whispered in my ear, it's Born to Rebel.
That is correct. Good job.
That's why I had a smart style. He said it was a book. Didn't you say it?
Yes. His autobiography.
There you go.
Some say that Springsteen was inspired by the autobiography. All right, so now we're going to move on to a topic that's near and dear to everyone's heart is Hurricane Helene. It's been almost 1 year since we suffered a tremendous blow to our community from Hurricane Helene. How would you assess our response and recovery to this historic storm, and what lessons did we learn for the future?
So I'm going to be here for about 2 days now, so if anybody wants to get up and leave. So I'm going to put my other hat on. I'm going to put my Duke Energy hat on for just a minute. And many of you know that for 20 years, I was the security director at Duke before I came to Greenwood. But in my 37 years now, I know it's hard for y'all to believe I'm that old, but for my 37 years at Duke, I've been a part of just about every major storm recovery in the 2 Carolinas. And I don't think I have to convince anyone. My belief is that Greenwood County was the most significant devastation I've ever witnessed. But in recovery, in the coordination of efforts, first of all, I've never seen a more impressive community response. And I have been in many EOCs all across the state in many different storm recoveries. And I have never seen, and I'm not saying it truly because it's Greenwood, I swear to you I'm not. I have never seen a better managed effort than we had here, anywhere. There are many people that I could point to, but on the county side, because that's certainly where I'm most familiar, I'm looking at Abby Banks sitting here, I'm looking at Carson Penny, so you got a communications officer, you got an attorney, they were loading trucks. I was out with fire services running chainsaws to cut out roads, and the city, I'm sure you guys can name many others, but it was tremendously impressive, tremendously impressive. I hope we never have to do it again. But again, I could talk about this for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I certainly don't have the experience in storm recovery that Theo has, but I learned a lot about the power grid and how we were laid out many decades ago, more than I ever thought I would know. But I want to echo what Theo said. Sometimes we have issues with each other in our community, but it's times like that that really show how we come together. And not just as a community coming together, but coming to support the folks from 19 different states and Canada that were here, I mean, within hours of the storm. I don't even know how they got here as fast as they did. So we're grateful, we're part of a program that pays it forward. We're grateful for the help we received, and our public safety officers, especially fire, they're out at Table Rock and other communities supporting them as well. So I pray to God we never have to experience it again. We can all, as Theo said, it's worse in South Carolina, the devastation, but it could be worse. It could be Western North Carolina.
So I'm looking at Jeff Meredith and folks from CPW. The court, not only the partnerships and the coordination of efforts, but I remember, it left an impression on me that on day one after the storm hit, Jeff and I were together, and we were talking about not that which really best served our companies per se, but how our strategy needed to be what best serves the people in this critical time. And Jeff, I think you would back me up on this, that we made an agreement that we were going to kind of consolidate our efforts, and we were going to energize the bypass from one end to the other as best we could. And why were we doing that? Because in doing that, you could eliminate the panic on gasoline, you could get gas stations open, you could get grocery stores open, you could get hotels open. So thank you for that, Jeff, because I think we did a tremendous job working together on that particular effort.
Yeah, CPW is instrumental in working with the power company to get us back. And there's going to be after effects felt still for many years with the degree of devastation that we experienced. I know Julie wants to weigh in.
I really kind of forgot what I was going to say. I think, to the point that Theo made, it was really like a city and a county effort for sure, but our community members, I would never even gotten to work that day if it hadn't been for my neighbors out cutting trees and pushing things out of the road so that we could get where we needed to be to try to start recovering. I think our community was very patient. That was a lot of debris. As far as your part of the question about lessons learned, I think one of the things that I don't think we could have imagined is that, I personally was without power for 10 days. That is a really long time to be without power. Most of the people in our community probably didn't have generators. We didn't know what to do, I don't think, necessarily to be prepared for something like that. And so I think maybe, a takeaway is the ability to better educate our residents if we ever find ourselves in that type of situation again.
Do you envision us, we're not Florida, but almost having more education around hurricane season and saying, you know, are you always putting gas in your car when the storm's coming? Are you sourcing generators, that kind of stuff?
I mean, I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel here. Ms. Hutto even mentioned to me during the hurricane, she and I went for a ride, and we were marking down the streets that were still blocked, and she said to me, I have friends that live in Florida, and they said that, you know, the state will send out, or the county will send out information about how to be prepared. So I think it's just, you know, there are states that experience these types of events a lot more frequently than we do, that I think we can cheat off their paper to help our residents.
All right, let's move on to county/city operations. Federal government now was shut down on October 1st, and we're in the 4th week of a government shutdown. How has the shutdown affected city or county operations?
Not much yet, but I'm gonna pass this to the manager.
Not much, to be honest with you. We do have a $5 million grant from the Department of Energy that we were literally on the last steps of, and it's gotten bogged down, and the current reason given is because of the shutdown. So, but we've been working on the fuse blower for 20 years, so what's a few weeks, you know, here or there. But other than that, no significant impact for us this far.
Well, same for city services, but I was just talking to Tricia Hartung just a minute ago. I mean, the city residents, county residents are going to be impacted unless our federal government can figure this out. It's inevitable. It can't last like this forever. So we're grateful for folks like Representative Biggs and their attention to this. I know they're working to get us back together.
The county recently changed to a 4-day work week. Why was the change made, and what has been the impact on services provided to the community? Is the city planning on moving to a 4-day work day as well, work week as well?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let the city start, because I don't have any idea what they're planning.
So the city actually already operates on a semi-4-day work week, and we call it a flexible schedule, where we actually started doing it before the county, just as a way to try to retain people, where everybody's getting creative how to retain and recruit new employees. So the way our system works is that we're open the same hours, 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, but our department to department, our department heads manage their own people internally to work 37.5 hours in 4 days versus 5. If work needs to be completed, it's up to that department head to make sure that they have the coverage they need, that people are getting their work done before they're taking time off. And so the day you may be off just varies depending on your workload and what's needed in your department. And we don't have any plans to make any changes.
I'm in the office on Fridays, in case anybody needs me.
So in Greenwood County, you know, we're both fortunate and maybe have a bit of disfortune in that our manufacturing alliance and our industrial footprint is so tremendous for a rural county. But the challenge for local government is in employing people that we have to try to keep up. You know, our benefits certainly are great, but it's hard to keep up with private industry in regard to compensation. So when County Council made the decision to go to the 4-day work week, it was really about recruitment and retention. And we're a year in now. We just had conversations just several weeks ago because we kind of held open when we made that move, because there were some people in the public that said, oh, I like to get things done on Friday, and this is going to hinder me. But we believe that would be a recruitment and retention tool. And with the help of our HR department just in the past 2 months, we surveyed our employees and we found that overwhelmingly, not surprisingly, that people would like to have a 4-day work week. But for those who have been hired in the last year, they indicated that factored into their decision to come to work for us. And also that it would and with both our prior workforce and those new hires, that it would also impact their decision to stay with us, the retention portion. So with the help of our HR department, a couple of months back, we did that survey. Like I said, I think the results of that overwhelmingly showed that we made a good decision in that regard. And since then, we have implemented a lot of online application processes, so that now it's much less important than it was before that people actually be able to walk into our facilities. And so I think that has helped, with some who said, well, I wish I could still go in on Friday. Well, now if you need a permit, you can apply in your pajamas at 10 o'clock at night if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I'll be brief because they've already covered the majority of the answer. The reason why the county went to it is for the exact reason that Julie outlined. They've gone to essentially a 4-day flex schedule. CPW, I think, has gone to a 4.5-day schedule. Metro's gone to a modified schedule. These are the people we're competing with for talent. I mean, it's a recruitment and retention issue. And the chairman talked about the survey we did with our staff, put a little meat on the bone. Of the new employees that were hired in the last year, 75% said the new schedule was impacted their decision to come to the county. Interviewed the other employees that weren't hired, longer-term employees, and about 75% of them said if we went back to the 5-day work week, they would either leave or consider leaving the county. So it has absolutely helped with retention, absolutely helped with retention and recruitment. So I think it's been a really good program. We talked about, we just can't compete with private industry for compensation. We just can't. We could, but we tax the heck out of y'all and y'all revolt. So to avoid that, we just can't pay people, accountant for accountant or engineer for engineer, what the private sector can pay. So we have to try to be creative in how we incentivize our people, and this is one of the ways that we were able to do it.
You mentioned permits. The county moved to an online permit system. How has the move been received, and are there any other changes anticipated with that system?
Yeah. Well, I think the question is a little bit of a misnomer. The county didn't go to it. A joint city-county department, which is building inspections, engineering, and planning, are all joint city-county departments. So the goal will be to get all three of those, obviously interconnected departments, on one electronic system. And the first department to go to that is building inspections. So I don't know what Julie's hearing, but what I'm hearing is that it's being very well received. That, kind of like Theo jokingly said, you have contractors that at 10 o'clock at night, they can sit in their pajamas and apply for permits and get in line. Instead of having to rush to be at the airport annex by 5:30, they can literally do it anytime and get their place in line. So, all indication that we're getting is that it's very well received. So what you will see in the future is you will see kind of the next evolution. Planning will join on to that, and then engineering will join on to that. So you have a fully functional electronic permitting system. That's where we're headed over the next few months.
We have a question related to zoning ordinance, and this member asked, in almost every city and county council meeting, we're seeing ordinances related to zoning. Have the number of zoning requests increased from 24 to 25? What are some of the major changes you're noticing in these zoning requests, and what is driving those zoning request changes?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number, 24 to 25, but I will tell you, I don't think the rezoning request number has changed significantly. What I will tell you has changed significantly is the number of housing starts. We're seeing a large, abnormally large number of housing starts. So somewhere in the area of 3,600 homes or somewhere between starting their process and getting into construction. So in Greenwood or Charleston, that's not a big number. For us, that's a big number. You got to think there's about 24,000 homes in the county. So that's about a 15% increase of new homes somewhere in our process of being built in Greenwood County. So that's a huge number. You look at some of the subdivisions. Old 8 is one, it's going to be about 845 homes. Pemberley Park, 471 homes, which is Marshall and the bypass. Saluda Shoals, 386 homes on Silent Church Road. So I would say, to answer your question, you're not seeing as many, I don't think, rezoning cases. I think you're seeing a lot of planning work being done that's driven by new housing starts.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know the numbers between 24 and 25, but bottom line is we've had more interest in residential development in the last 6 years or so than in the history of Greenwood, period. The highly connected Piedmont between Charlotte, Atlanta, is experiencing some of the highest growth in the country, and that growth is coming down to Greenwood, and we've been tasked with providing housing. There's two types of housing for folks that are struggling and need housing, and then there's housing for the folks that are moving here, and whether it's middle class, upper class, affordable housing. We've been tasked with providing that. What we're looking forward to now is updating our comprehensive plan to adjust for a lot of the growth that we've had, and that'll be coming hopefully next year.
I was just going to mention the comprehensive plan, but the mayor stole my thunder. The one thing I'll mention that I usually say a lot is that I know that the residential growth has been kind of a shock to everyone who's lived here for any length of time, because as the mayor said, we've really seen kind of flat population growth over the last several censuses. So I understand that it's like, wow, where are these people coming from? But understand too that we have a lot of people that live in other counties that drive into Greenwood to work every day. And I think a large reason for that is because our housing stock was not adequate to house all of those people. I also know that typically when I go and speak to community groups, they want to know what's coming, you know, and the rooftops are going to drive the commercial growth. I know y'all see Chappell is finally being built. Another round of applause. Thank you, David. But in all seriousness, those types of commercial developments, they come from your median household income and your population. And so as our community grows, we will see more and more higher end commercial offerings as well.
All right, so we have a tie in our Jeopardy game, so we definitely need to break this tie. So this question will be for the big win. So you guys can talk about it. Anybody can bring in. So, and the category is Greenwood history. This location in Greenwood once housed German prisoners of war during World War II.
I was not around then. Theo, do you remember?
Excuse me? No. May have been paid.
The airport.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes. The Cornega Army Airfield, aka the Greenwood Airport. All right, Brandon. Good job.
What is the airport?
What is it? Huh?
No, that was answered before we question.
Very good. What is it?
Sure, I got it.
So yeah, you guys really win bragging rights for a whole year. Yeah, that's the very attention. We'll see you back tomorrow, to play for another round. Just to wrap things up, I know we're getting short on time. What exciting changes are we going to see in the next year in the city and county and Greenwood area?
Well, as you all know, on the county side, we're in the midst of a pretty significant building program right now with a new administration building and renovations to the courthouse. We'll be able now to have our public safety, EMS and the like out at the airport complex. If you recall, that's a property that we acquired, 2 years ago now, I guess. And the acquisition of that property was kind of in our strategic focus, knowing that we had to build something new downtown because our facilities were just outdated and frankly kind of embarrassing. And I recall that when the first RFP came in to build a new administrative building that we had set aside, I think, Toby, about $11 million for. As I remember in prior years, it came in at $27 million. There was no way that we could do that. So what we have done, we had the opportunity to buy the property out by the airport. We thought it was a good purchase because it was adjoining to the airport. It was contiguous to what we already own. And that's worked out real well for transitional office space, and that will be the permanent home for our public safety initiatives for everything but the sheriff's department. So that worked out extremely well. And again, to the credit of the county staff, they found a way to do something that's going to be very nice downtown in regard to our new administration building. It's going to come in at a cost of somewhere around $15 million. So once again, we try to protect the taxpayers. Toby, you want to add to that?
Yeah, agreed. And I'll kind of button up Theo's and then I'll go with my answer. The whole point of the renovation that we're doing, and it happens by accident. You know, when you run an organization for 50 years, let's say it's about how Park Plaza is. Now you add an apartment here, you add something here, you add something here. You just kind of stick staff wherever you have space available. I mean, we literally have converted conference rooms into offices to give people somewhere to put a desk. And you do that for 50 years, and where you lay it out makes absolutely no sense. You know, so that's kind of the point we had gotten to. So where we're going to get to in the next year is you'll have, and this is going to be shocking, court functions in the courthouse, administrative function in the administrative building, and public safety function in the public safety facility. It's going to, actually make sense, for the title of the buildings. And then in 50 years, somebody else will be here and they can unravel whatever we do. But for now, that's how we're going to unravel it. So to me, my answer to your question, what I'm excited about is the economic development. James is here, Abby's here, Billy Ray, I'm sure, is working on an RFI. That's what he does all day. So I'm really excited about the opportunities of what's coming down the pipe as far as economic development. Just to give you a few numbers. So in 2024, we announced $534 million in capital investment, 560 new jobs. That's the highest level of job creation in 18 years and second highest capital investment ever. Since James has been running the economic development department, we've announced $1.43 billion with a B in investment and created 1,252 new jobs. This is the second year in a row that we've announced over $500 million in capital investment. So in 2024, to give some perspective on what I'm excited about, 2024 we answered 51 requests for information. To date, we've already answered 60. So we're going to be somewhere in the vicinity of 40 to 50% higher RFIs this year than we were last year. And in the past 2 years, we've had $500 million in investment in both of those years. So I don't think the 25 number will be that high, but I think the 26 and 27 number could really be that high. And that's huge. I think the pipeline that James has built and Abby and Billy Ray have built for economic development in Greenwood County is truly phenomenal. And one of the things before the chairman takes it, to tie that together, you have the North Greenwood Industrial. Well, at last council meeting, county council signed 5 new options to option the property. So that's going to give you some virgin dirt. We built the North Greenwood Industrial Park, which is going to include 2 new pad-ready sites and a spec building. So now we can run the gamut from pure dirt to a spec building. And that's going to make us even more competitive in economic development competition. So James and Abby and Billy Ray have done a phenomenal job, and that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that, North 25 Industrial Complex. So right now, I've been saying for years now that the North 25 corridor is our new growth corridor. From an economic development perspective, one of the hottest sites in South Carolina is what I refer to loosely as the Sneed Farm. It's more than the Sneed Farm, but 500 acres that James helped us to cobble together because of some of the industrial interests that are looking at Greenwood County but saying we got to have 500 acres. That's one of the hottest properties in the state right now, and we have several different entities looking at that. If you remember that, I remember when we were proposing in 16 to build the spec building. I had people actually say to me, "You're crazy. You're going to spend $1 million. It's going to sit there and not sell, and you're wasting tax dollars." Well, wrong. My belief then was that as a rural county in South Carolina, you have to differentiate yourself. Everyone has green spaces. Everyone has green spaces. And site selectors do not come if there's not something beyond that to look at. So our belief was, if you build it, they will come. We spent about, $3.2 million in the development. That was road access and everything else on that property. We sold it to Swing for $5.5 million. We took that 1.8, we rolled it right back into the development of that property, and now if you've driven 25 North, you're seeing what we're doing there. As Toby mentioned, we're building the next building, and we have suitors who are interested in Greenwood County. We have some big ones. James has done a great job, he and his staff, and Greenwood County is, and we're under a lot of NDAs right now about things we can't talk specifics about, but I will just tell you that we are finalists for at least, what, James, 3 right now, potentially, about 3 pretty big deals. So we're growing and people are paying attention. So I just wanted to talk about that side of the county, my district, for just a minute.
Yeah, I think I could go on and on for a long time about some exciting projects coming to our city center or adjacent to our city center, but as we already talked about, specifically with the Westside Master Plan, we know that there's some neighborhood vibrancy projects that are much needed, so we look forward to figuring out ways to be able to use our resources for some neighborhood vibrancy that extends beyond just our city center. Another one, it may not be as exciting to some people, I think it will be to this room though, is we'll be reviewing a tree ordinance coming up to make sure we keep Greenwood green. So.
I don't have too much to add, except for City Council does seem pretty dedicated to addressing the aging arcades that are on the fronts of the buildings along Main Street. So I'm relatively excited about that, and because apparently I'm kind of a nerd, I'm really excited about a stormwater master plan that we got a grant through the Rural Infrastructure Authority to do that will give us a really good roadmap for addressing our stormwater, rather than being so reactive when someone calls and says, hey, there's a sinkhole over here. That's pretty much how we know we have a problem. This plan will allow us to be able to have ready-laid plans, ready to go to apply for grants to continue to upgrade and improve our stormwater infrastructure. So lots of great things on the horizon. And I think just the economic development things that the county's talking about, I think you're going to start to see all that feed into the residential growth and then continued commercial growth of our county. The comp plan should drive us straight into doing that in a responsible way. So I think we're all aligned in our growth goals and doing that in a responsible way.
Well, Julie, Brandon, Theo, Toby, thank you very much. We appreciate you guys coming and talking to us today and for being good sports. And I think the cooperation that the city and county have is pretty clear here. And there are a lot of communities where those folks don't always play nice together. So please a round of applause for our family. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy.
All right, so thank you, David, for moderating our panel discussion and also introducing us to a little bit of Greenwood history. So also thank you guys once again for being a part of the panel. We also encourage members of the chamber to stay engaged, attend public meetings, participate in local discussions, and support those who serve. One of the strategic goals of the Greenwood Chamber is to strengthen our influence and advocacy efforts. In alignment with this goal, the Chamber's Advocacy Committee will begin planning a candidate academy in the coming months. Whether you're considering running for office or simply want to gain a better understanding of how government works, this will be a valuable opportunity to learn, connect, and make a difference. More information will be shared as plans are finalized. As we close, we want to give a special thanks to LMW Catering for providing our lunch for today, and also many thanks to our host, Harris Baptist Church, for allowing us to use their facility today. So thank you as well to our chamber staff, Graham back here, and I saw Jody is over there. So thank you so much for all your help with today, and we will be adjourned. Thank you guys. Drive safe.